Hi, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to talk around why your e-commerce brand isn't growing and the iceberg that you are potentially ignoring. Now, everybody loves to talk about ads, aesthetics and content, but here's the truth. What you're actually seeing is just the very tip of the iceberg. If your brand feels stuck and is struggling to scale or burning cash without consistent results, it's probably because you're not looking beneath the surface. In this video, I'm going to break down the lean iceberg model for e-commerce and show you why what is actually unseen is what drives profitable growth and what I deliver for my clients. So, I want you to picture an iceberg. Now, the above part of the water, that's what's visible to your brand, and that's what we call the visible section. It's what your customers typically have sight of. It looks great, but it only represents 10% of the total mass of your business. The other 90%, that's what is hidden beneath the surface. Now, in e-commerce, this is where the real work happens. That's where your growth is built, refined, and repeated. So I'm going to break down what's above the surface and what's below. Now, this is the part that people obsess over. So people obsess about their website design, their branding, influencer campaigns, packaging, social media presence, their email designs, photography, videography, and ad creatives. Now, don't get me wrong, all of that is incredibly important and it does matter. But these are just the outcomes of other results. They are the results of deeper systems in your business. And without those deeper layers, this stuff simply doesn't scale. It just spikes and it crashes. So, what's beneath the surface and what's actually important? This is where 90% of your growth is actually created. Now, we break this down into 4 different layers for our clients. Layer 1 is your strategy and your positioning. Layer 2 is your data and operational excellence. Layer 3 is your retention and your profit systems. And layer 4 is the internal efficiency. Now, these are the 4 layers of activity that build sustainable, profitable, and scalable brands. This is not about throwing money at ads. This is not about launching new products every month or bringing new SKUs into your business. This is about building lean, intelligent, data-driven engines behind the scenes. So, starting with strategy and positioning. Growth without direction for any brand is simply noise. The brands that are the most profitable are not the loudest, they are just sharper at what they do. And let me explain. Now, there are key elements to strategy and positioning. There's clear brand positioning. So who exactly are you for? Why are you relevant to them now? And why you in the first place? There's a multitude of competition in the market. So how do you stand out? Secondly is customer segmentation, understanding the buying behaviors and the lifetime value of your audience by their particular segment. And then there's the offer strategy. This is around bundles, tiered pricing, and upsell logic. Now, one of our clients that we recently worked with was running meta ads, but struggling with their ROAS. When we actually audited their positioning, so not the ads, but how they were actually positioning themselves as a brand, they were being far too generic. They were trying to be a premium skincare brand for everybody. Now, as a rule of thumb, if you speak to everybody, you speak to nobody. Okay. Now, after niching down this brand, and we looked at what their actual USP was, and their USP was post-gym skincare for busy women. So we look at that as in a completely different light to what they were previously. And what we did is reposition their offer and all of their positioning within the ad account, new creatives, everything built around that particular segment of audience that we identified. Now, as a result, the click-through rate on their ads doubled, and their average order increased by 27%. This was largely driven by a new product bundle that was crafted specifically for their audience. They narrowed down very, very specifically who their target audience were, and they positioned their strategy and their brand around that individual. So rather than appealing to everybody, they were very direct around who they wanted to appeal to. And this was busy professional women who wanted a post-gym skincare routine that did not take a lot of time. If you don't refine and define who you are for as a brand and shape your offer accordingly around them, you are always going to be fighting on price or chasing volume. And that is a place where no e-commerce brand wants to be. The second positioning, and I would argue most important, is around data and optimization. Now, this is where your brand needs to become smart and not reactive. You should never be responsive, and every single piece of data in your business should be driving decisions that you make. There's key elements built up of this, and those are your conversion rate optimization. Now, it's one of the most underappreciated elements of e-commerce, but I would argue that it is the most important element. This is where we look at things like landing page tests, checkout flows, and mobile experience. If you're not optimizing the experience for your customer when they visit your store and you are paying for traffic, you are leaving so much money on the table. Now, the other part to this is customer lifetime value and cohort analysis. I'm going to break this down into a bit more detail. This is where we understand the value over time by first product purchase, the source of traffic, or the funnel they come to. This is where you effectively look at where your customers are coming from, what it is costing you to acquire those customers, and how do you increase the lifetime value of those customers to out equate what you're paying to bring them in. So it's looking at lifetime value of that customer offset against the acquisition costs that you pay to acquire them. And the last part, but by all means not least, is lean testing. Lots of brands and lots of agencies talk about creative iterations and creative testing, but none of it is done in a systematic way that provides you with the data that you need to actively optimize your business. So what we look at is rapid creative iterations, offers, and UGC split tests. Now I'm going to break this down into a bit more detail and give you some context. One of our apparel brands we work with, when they first onboarded, had a 1.6 site conversion rate. It's pretty miserable and it wasn't helping them at all. Now we simplified the product page landing element for mobile users. We identified very quickly that 80% of their traffic came through to the website on a mobile, but their website was previously optimized for desktop users. So if only 20% of those users are receiving an optimized experience, you're really hindering your ability to convert those customers. So we switched it the other way and we made sure that we built out a really positive mobile experience. We removed all non-essential choices, and we improved everything that was above the fold, including the load speed. We pushed their conversion rate to 3.3% in just 23 days. And this is with high volumes of traffic coming to the site. We've later moderated that level of traffic, ensuring that they were only targeting their USP and their ideal customer. And we have since increased their conversion rate on their website to 9.8%, which has held firm for the last 40 plus days now. And that's simply by holding that traffic level and increasing the revenue of those individuals. You got to think about it this way. Every 0.1% improvement that you make to your business, and particularly to your website, compounds. The smart growth for an e-commerce business is about effectively diagnosing the bottlenecks in your business and optimizing deliberately, not just spending more. So whilst lots of agencies will tell you that they can do lots of creative testing and push out 40 plus ads a month, that's fine. But if you haven't got the spend to support that level of testing, then you need to be incredibly careful with how you do this. And that's where rapid creative iterations come into play. In simple form, what we look at is what's working in your business, optimize specifically on that, look at what's working, avoid those mistakes, and then optimize carefully, ensuring that there's profitable growth within the business on any creative tests that we do. And we very, very quickly optimize and find winners. Those winners then become the scale effect for the business that we run on profitably. So the third layer is around retention and profit systems. Now, acquisition gets an awful lot of attention. Everybody focuses on Meta ad, Google ads, TikTok ads, and social proof. What they don't look at is the fact that the retention elements of your business will build your brand, and profits come from doing them efficiently. So yes, you can be incredibly good at acquiring customers through Meta ads, but if you're not retaining them through email or by SMS or optimizing the experience and increasing that lifetime value and spend for your customers, you are not going to be as profitable as you could be. So there's a couple of elements to this. First element, email and SMS flows. The amount of brands I speak with on strategy calls before we onboard or we even consider whether they're a right fit for us, who do not have any form of email flow set up, to be frank, in 2025 is incredibly scary. This does not take a lot of effort. It's really simple to do. I'm going to be releasing a video on this in a couple of weeks' time, which is going to talk you through how to go from complete zero to optimized level in Klaviyo within the space of 7 days. And you'll be able to follow the video along to actually identify how to do that, and there'll be a step-by-step guide. This is not overly complicated. This is something we want to look at, and all we're trying to do is introduce a welcome series, an abandoned cart series, post-purchase upsells, and win-backs. So you're increasing your conversion rate on new acquired customers, and you're building that customer lifetime value at the back end as well. The other option there is around subscription and loyalty optimization. It's about turning those single buyers into predictable revenue. Works incredibly well for supplement brands. When you build in a subscription and loyalty optimization system where you know that you can predictably guarantee levels of revenue for your business, it encourages that level of growth so much more, and you are positioned so much more clearly as a brand in terms of how you scale and what you need to do next. The next part is around SKU margin mapping. Now, this is where you understand what actually makes you money in your business. Now, many e-commerce brands I speak with have quite a variety of SKUs. Now, we have some clients who have up to 50 SKUs, and we have some clients that simply have 4 SKUs. Okay. Now, the SKU levels that you have and the volumes are incredibly important, and they become even more important when you identify the need to understand your most profitable SKUs. We recently onboarded a client that had 8 SKUs on their website and within their business. Only 2 of the SKUs were accounting for 80% of their total revenue, 83% to be exact. So you've got another 6 SKUs that you are holding in your warehouse. You're paying to be processed, you're paying to be held, you're paying to be made in the first instance, but they're not acquiring anywhere near to the levels of revenue that you should be having. So always take a look at your SKU values, and that's one of the first things we do when we onboard a customer. We recently helped a supplement brand work in this space, and what we did is rework their post-purchase flow. Now, previously they had no cross-sell or education existing within their emails. Everything was simply discount driven, which is typically what we see when most agencies sort of jump into this space. We implemented a 5-part series that basically taught the usage and position complementary products. So we weren't upselling at the very early stages of the flow, but later on in the flow, we started to introduce complementary products. Their repeat purchase rate went from 8% to 31%. So a huge shift in predictable revenue. If you're not guiding your customers after the sale, you are potentially, and a lot of people will agree or disagree with this, but I know this from fact, based on the clients that we work with, you will be leaving 30 to 50% of your revenue on the table if you do not have a profitable retention system set up. Retention is not luck, it is engineered. You need to put the work in to make this happen. Once you do, the results will tell themselves. Last but not least is around internal efficiency and execution. Now, this is relative to most brands, but it'll be relative to more brands who are at a sizable scale. But this really is the hidden layer that enables you to scale without burning out. Systems, without doubt, make success repeatable. Now, I've learned that in my background in consulting, being a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, working with some of the biggest businesses around, Marks and Spencer's being named one. Now, the reason those businesses are so successful is because they have repeatable systems in place. So the key elements for this, you need to be building out your SOPs for ad testing, influencer outreach, and fulfillment issues. The amount of e-com brand owners I speak with who are still emailing influencers themselves and not outsourcing this is quite concerning. The number of founders who are the sole responsible person for their ad account at the point of onboarding, again, is a concern. Build out standard operating procedures, SOPs. Make sure that team members that you have are able to backfill positions and everybody is clear on the system that you're following. Dashboards for real-time data and team accountability. Now, I'm a huge advocate of data. I think it is the biggest number one driver that optimizes businesses. If you know your numbers, you know your business, you can scale profitably. Tech stack integrations. Now, lots of times when we onboard clients, we get into the Shopify account and there'll be 18, 19, 20 different apps, all contributing to different parts, but none of those are integrated together. We aim to very, very quickly reduce the friction, automate reporting, and eliminate waste. The amount of money people spend on apps and they don't get their full use out of them, it blows my mind. One 7-figure brand that we recently worked with, we actually supported by, they were actually at the time, they were manually downloading meta ad reports, cross-referencing with Shopify, and then they were slacking updates between themselves as a team every week. We stopped that. We built a process and a dashboard that updated daily, connected their ad costs with real-time sales, and their decision-making went from that gut feel to precise daily pivots. So they were able to pivot ad spend, creative activities and their iterative testing to ensure that their CAC dropped, which was their optimized target, which is where they needed to be. And they managed to drop their CAC by 17% in 3 weeks. This is the power of when you have data. Your business needs to run like a machine. If your operations are chaotic or dependent on one particular individual, you are always going to have a ceiling limit to the level of growth that you can acquire for your business. So, I think in summary, everything that is actually below the surface needs your attention as a brand owner. This is the 90% of the iceberg that nobody talks about. This is where high performing brands are incredibly optimized and perform incredibly well. If you want for your brand consistent, profitable growth, you need to stop focusing your whole attention on what is visible, and you need to start building what's sustainable. So what I mean by that, it's great having flashy ads, it's great working with good influencers, it's great having a social media strategy and pushing yourself out there. But if the back end of your business isn't systemized, productionized and ready to run, you have a ceiling limit to your growth. And there'll be brands watching this and brand owners watching this resonating with the fact that they feel that everything looks great on the front end. They speak to strangers, they love the look of the brand, they love the product. Their sales are kind of driving where they want to be, but they're still not quite there at that growth position. I guarantee you the main reason for that is your back-end systems. So your strategy and positioning, your data and operational excellence, your retention and profit systems, and your internal efficiency. Optimize those for your brand and you will completely transform where you are. Now, I know there's a lot of information to take in these videos, and I'm very, very conscious. I've had some feedback that they are a bit too detailed, but I would rather give the amount of detail and evidence that we do to ensure that there's lots of takeaways for people to optimize and implement straight away. But I appreciate that brand owners are busy. E-commerce growth is difficult, and having someone do it for you is sometimes the preference. So at JHA Media, we do have a done for you service for our clients where we implement acquisition, conversion and retention strategies, and we look at everything above and below the iceberg level. We take care of everything for you, including all your acquiring of customers, converting them on your website and building long-term lifetime value with our retention systems. All we need from you is a monthly touch point, quick approvals and trust and support. If you want to book a free strategy call, there will be a link in the description of this video, or you can visit our website where you'll be able to see more of our client referrals, loads of our client feedback, and you'll be able to see some of the work that we're actually delivering at the moment. Appreciate you sticking around for the video, and leave a comment if there's anything you want to see differently, if you want to expand on any of the points that are shown. But I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Until the next one, take care.